Hi everyone, it's Christy from Green-Eyed Tarot. Today I am here to film a VR to Kelsey from Huga Tarot and Tara from Tara is Cozy. So they have a series running together that they're collaborating on, which is their Cozy Capsule collection. So the idea is to choose just a few decks to work with in any given month. So like for the month of February, they've chosen decks that they're going to work with and they're calling it a capsule collection. So kind of getting cozy with your decks and honing in on working with just a few decks at a time. And I love this idea because I tend to get deck overwhelm, and not that that's why they're doing it necessarily, but I tend to experience that deck overwhelm. So really honing in on just a few decks is kind of a practice that I've been trying to follow anyway. So I finally feel like I have my life together this year, as we're getting into February now. So I didn't participate in January, but I am starting now. Better late than never. So I'm gonna just be showing the decks that I've chosen for February. And so with this cozy capsule collection series that they're doing, so there's a theme for each month. So for this month, the theme is warm embrace. So I guess these are decks that make you sort of think of a warm embrace or give you warm feelings. Not necessarily doesn't have to be, obviously February is Valentine's Day, so lots of love, going on. So maybe decks that make you feel like all warm and fuzzy inside about a loved one. Like it could be a significant other, or it could just be a friend, or, the love for you have for your family or your kids. But the warm embrace, I think, feeling is more just that feeling of warmth. And I will definitely link the videos that they've already posted. So in the series, so I'll definitely put those in the description box. The to the videos that they've posted on their channels for this cozy capsule collection. So you can definitely check those out. But warm embrace is our theme. So I'm going to go ahead and show the decks that I've chosen to go along with the theme of warm embrace. And I don't know that they're going to make sense to everybody, but they make sense to me in my mind. And I'll kind of explain why I chose these for warm embrace. Like when I was going through my decks and looking. So I picked 3 tarot and 3 oracle. There's really no rules, I don't think, to this. Like it's really just whatever works for you. Some people, their cozy capsule collection might look like, 5 or 6 decks, and some people it could be one, just 1 or 2. So I think it's really just whatever works for you in your personal practice and your connection with tarot. So, okay, so the first sort of set of decks, I'll start with the tarot. So I chose the Revival Art Tarot. This is the 2nd edition. So, and this is by Taroko Studios. So the reason I chose this deck, and it may seem, like I said, not to really make sense for a warm embrace type deck, but the reason I chose this deck is because it just reminds me of a day that I spent with my partner at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and that's in, New York City. So we don't live far from there. So we're able to hop on a train or hop in the car and go there. And we went to the Met one night, one Friday. We decided to take a vacation day from work and to head into the city. But we went, it was like a late night at the Met. They do these late nights. And so we decided to go on a Friday night. And there's something really magical and special about the Metropolitan Museum of Art at night, especially. In general, it is just magnificent. It's just a magnificent place to begin with, but something really special at night. And I don't know about any of you in terms of just going to art, museums. But there's something about art museums, like people are quiet. It's almost like the library. Like it's like in such a busy, bustling city as New York City, you enter the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and there's certain corners of that place because there's so many galleries and like so many floors and, you know, so many different areas that you can visit, that it's like you can literally feel like you're alone there, you know, in certain galleries. Like, and especially at night, it wasn't as, you know, crowded. So it just sometimes felt like we were alone in parts of the gallery. And the way they light it is so beautiful. And it's this feeling. I can't describe it, but the feeling of just walking around and like in awe of these like masterpieces, like all of this art, and just, you know, walking with him and like talking about the art and just commenting on it and sharing our thoughts on it, and then just talking about, you know, what we love about the different pieces and like what we don't like and what really draws us to the art. And it was just one of the most magical nights I've ever had. And obviously it has a lot to do with the company I'm with, right? So I'm with my partner, who I'm absolutely madly in love with and who's my most favorite person on earth. And so that obviously has something to do with it, which makes me have those warm feelings. But there was just something so romantic and also it's just magical. And so this deck really reminds me of that moment of walking, like those moments of walking through like these huge, magnificent halls and these different exhibits and the different galleries, and just taking in all this beautiful art and being with this person I love. And it was winter, so it was like cold. I think it was like between fall and winter, so it was a little cold out, and, you know, we were able to get a hot beverage, and it just was just one of those magical moments where we were just so present with each other, and we were just really taking in where we were. And like I said, you can't believe how quiet it is. Like, it's something about, I don't know if it's everyone sort of, they have this quiet reverence for these like masterpiece, you know, pieces of art, and like the sculptures, and just it almost like demands, you know, that level of reverence. Like, and I think people have that, you know, so it just was like, it's just magical. And like I said, this deck brings me into that space, like being in that art museum and are surrounded by all this gorgeous art. It literally reminds me. And I like picked up this deck and I was like, immediately thought of that night at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and just how amazing it was. So that's why I chose this deck. I love this moon card. Oh my God. This is one of my favorite, like most favorite moon cards, like in any deck. And the deck is just gorgeous. It's so like beautifully produced. It's on the most beautiful cardstock, like matte cardstock. I feel like the colors are so vibrant, like the material of the cards that they use, it just made everything stand out. And also too, it's bigger. Like, this is a bigger format, so it's not a standard tarot size. It's big. It's like an oracle size. And so the artwork just really stands out, you know, in this deck because of the size. And like, I love the border. Like, I don't mind the borders because the borders, you know, the paintings extend to the end of the cards, so the borders are there just like decorative, but it like frames so much of the art. I don't know. This deck is gorgeous to begin with. And like I said, it gives me that warm feeling, the feeling I had, you know, walking around on a cold, like crisp, like wintry night, but being inside. And like I said, this beautiful soft lighting with all this artwork. And now it's just making me want to go back even more. So, and I think we have a day planned coming up. I think the two of us took a day off coming up. So I think that we're going to end up, we haven't been there in quite a while. So I think that we're going to end up maybe taking a trip during the day for one of our days off as like a little Valentine date. I think we're going to do that just because it's one of our favorite places, and it's one of our most favorite things to do together. So so this deck is definitely bringing me all those vibes, and to me it does have a very romantic feel, and obviously is reminding me of something that, you know, just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. So that is the Revival Art Tarot by Taroko Studios. So that one is my first warm embrace deck. And then the oracle deck that I chose to pair with it is this Divine Nature Oracle. This is by Angie Sullins. The art is by Greg Spalenka. So this has an absolutely amazing guidebook. I love the guidebook in this oracle deck. But to me, this deck, being called the Divine Nature Tarot, it definitely does have, it feels like a warm embrace from nature, right? Just from the earth around us. But it is also very, to me, very, like very much a self-care, like self-love. So it to me, it like gives me energy of like a warm embrace for yourself, right? Like embracing all of the things that make you feel good, the things that you love, all your great qualities, embracing your flaws, embracing the boundaries you set. So like this says establish sanctuary. So sanctuary to me, just, it's, again, that's such a protective word, right? Your sanctuary is like your space, your safe space. It's a place that you feel love and comforted. It's a place where you are embraced warmly, right? Your sanctuary. Twirl. So twirling is something that, you know, can bring you so much joy, right? It's just something that's simple that like maybe like, so this kind of represents doing something that just sort of brings you joy. Bubble up, right? Maybe embracing, you know, all those little tiny moments and finding that happiness and just letting that warmth and that happiness bubble up inside you. So this deck, like I said, it just reminds me of the ultimate sort of self-care and self-love. Own your power, right? So it's just, the messages to me are very, like I said, very nurturing, and it makes me feel like nature and the earth itself is sort of it wrapping me in this warm embrace. Embody grace. So just, I mean, the artwork is beautiful. I love the messages. Listen to your muse. Create, right? Create can be such a healing and magical, you know, way, you know, to love yourself, right? To giving yourself that space and that time and that energy to create. Burn sacred fire. Share your bounty. So sharing your gifts with people. It just feels like a warm embrace. Call on courage. So I just love the messages. I love the artwork. It has like, even has like those warm, right? It's divine nature. So those warm, like earthy tones. Journey, right? Just respecting and honoring the journey you're on. Garden your heart. I love this card. The message in the guidebook for Garden the Heart is amazing. And this deck pairs so well with so many decks. I actually have a video on my channel. I'll try to link it in the cards of when I got this deck, of just me picking decks to pair with it, just because I thought it went so well with a lot of decks. So that's the Divine Nature Oracle by Angie Sullins. So that is the first oracle deck I chose for warm embrace, because I just feel like, again, it's nature and the earth embracing you, as well as you embracing yourself and kind of giving yourself that warm embrace, you know, through self-care and self-love. So Divine Nature. Okay, so the second set of decks that I chose for warm embrace is, so the tarot is the Solara Occulto Meliora Tarot. So this deck was I recently backed it on Kickstarter, because this is the second edition of this deck. So I literally waited, I can't even tell you how long I waited to get this deck. Like, this was like my unicorn deck. It was on my wish list. I missed out on it the first time, and I just literally stalked the creators' social media to find out when she was going to release it again. So this is by it's a Crimson Asaria Tarot is the website, but I will definitely link, like, again, like just where you can get this deck or just find out about the artist. But it is, so this deck, obviously, just the sun is in the name, Solara, so sun is pretty much in the name of the deck. So I chose this because to me it feels like the warm sun shining down on you. Like, so like those days where like the sun's warming your face, and even though it's winter here and it's like 27 degrees out, it's been so bright and sunny for the last couple of days. So when you go out, you don't feel as cold. The sun's like really shining on your face. So just those times when that sun, you know, feels like it's giving you a warm embrace by beating down on your face and like by warming your face. So this deck to me just is sort of reminds me of just sunshine, right? It has that, you know, that imagery throughout the deck. And this is still in order because I almost didn't want to touch it. Like, it's such a beautiful deck. Like, in terms of the quality, I'm like, I don't want to shuffle this. It's hard. So like, but I've decided to just embrace it for this month, and I'm going to use it. But it's got these beautiful black matte edges, and obviously it's got this gold foil like on the back. Again, huge cards, like oracle size. So that seems like to be a theme. Matte cardstock. It's just gorgeous. And I'm just going to get over myself and like shuffle it. First of all, it's gigantic. So I'm never going to be able to riffle shuffle it. Overhand shuffling is going to be an issue because it's big. But it just reminds me of sunshine and that warmth, you know, these warm tones, these golden, yellow, orangey tones. It just, here's a giant sun. It's got the imagery definitely of the sun. So it's easy to kind of make that connection with this deck, but it just gives me warm vibes and sunny vibes, and like you're being, like I said, embraced by the sun. Here again, we have like we have suns like everywhere. Like I said, it kind of makes sense because of the name of the deck, but I definitely, when I heard warm embrace, I just kept thinking like warmth, and I just kept thinking the sun, and I'm like, what's the deck, right? This deck that like literally embodies the sun right now for me. And so it was definitely this Solara Occulto Meliora. It's just so unique. I love the artwork. I don't think I have anything else like this, and it's probably why I stalked this deck for so long. Something about it just really struck me. So I'm so thankful I have it now, and I'm so thankful I get to use it now this month, and to represent this warm embrace, this very warm, sunny feeling. There's that warm, sunny feeling. It reminds me of like lazy days, like in the sun, you know, where the sun just sort of warms you and like wraps you in that warmth, and you like fall asleep in the sun. So super excited about that. But this is definitely a warm embrace deck for me. Oof, look at that Ace of Wands. I love the colors in this, like these yellows, fiery yellows. It's just simply gorgeous. So very much looking forward to using this as one of my decks for February for warm embrace. Again, it's gigantic. It's huge, so we'll see how the shuffling's gonna go. Okay, so to go along with this deck, I chose this oracle, and I'll explain why. So this is the Herbal Astrology Oracle by Adriana Ayales, and the artwork is by Josephine Clerks. So this, I really thought I had enough like herbal decks. I was like, I don't need any more. I'm paring down my collection, and then this one came along, and I waited. I didn't do it. I was like, I'm not doing it. I have Woodland Wardens. You know, I have ones that I use like pretty much religiously for herbal type decks. So I was like, I don't need it. But it kept calling my name. And so I went ahead and I got it. And I'm so glad that I did, because this deck feels more like primal. It feels more like my ancestors sort of calling out to me with herbal knowledge, and plant knowledge, and even just like the ancestors, like the plant ancestors and things like that. So to me, that's what this feels like. But it also feels like, having a warm cup of tea. Like this reminds me of wrapping your hands around a warm beverage, a warm mug, and like you feel the warmth coming off of it. And the mug is like, it's like a big, heavy, like stoneware mug, right? That feels like it's from the earth. It's been made from the earth. And that's what this deck reminds me of. It reminds me of wrapping your hands around a warm beverage, and maybe a tea that you've, created yourself, because you've mixed different herbs and flower essences and things like that, and you created the tea yourself. And so that's why I chose this deck for warm embrace, because it just reminds me of that warm embrace we feel when we drink a hot beverage. And whether it's tea or whether it's coffee, like I love cinnamon in my coffee, so I love putting a little cinnamon in my coffee, and cinnamon immediately adds warmth, I think, to anything, right? Like just cinnamon itself, like the scent of cinnamon and just the way it adds such a depth of flavor to things. So that's what this deck feels like to me. It feels like a warm beverage sitting, with and savoring that every sip, like savoring every sip. That first sip of coffee in the morning is like glorious. I don't know if you're like me, but I drink coffee in the morning. I do drink tea, but I usually drink tea at night. But that first sip of coffee in the morning, or that first sip of hot tea when you're winding down at night, is just, to me, is like a warm embrace, and it's magical. So this deck, that's where I'm sort of, the warm embrace energy is coming from a warm beverage, like just that warm cup of tea or coffee, and just what that brings, what that gives to you, and like those little moments, right? Those small moments of just being mindful and being present. So yeah, so this deck feels like a warm beverage. So that's why I chose it. It's just beautiful. I love like the the more muted colors, sort of like more softer and muted, but very earthy colors. It's just gorgeous, this deck. And the matte cardstock, again, great. It's just beautiful. And I'm so glad I actually did pick it up, because to me, it has a very different type of energy than a lot of the other herbal decks I have. So that is the Herbal Astrology Oracle by Adriana Ayalis. So that is the second Oracle deck I chose for Warm Embrace. Okay, so one more set of decks and that's it. So for my third and final deck, and this is just a deck that is not going to be going away anytime soon, is the Witch Sister Tarot. So I'm going to zoom out a little because this is got a big box. So by Julia Jeffrey. Yeah, anyone who knows already, like anyone who's watched me, I always say it, any video on my, you know how much I love Julia Jeffrey, and I'm not going to go on and on about it. I could, but I'm not. So the Witch Sister Tarot, by Julia Jeffrey, created completely by her, all the artwork, the book written by her. In my eyes, it is a masterpiece, and no one is going to be able to tell me any differently. So this deck for me is the ultimate warm embrace, because it really makes me feel like I'm being embraced by my ancestors and like a lineage of people, especially a lineage of women that have come before me, just based on my own ancestry and the ancestral research I've done about myself. So this definitely feels like I'm being embraced by a whole group, like surrounded by a circle of ancestors, and a circle of female ancestors, in particularly. So this deck will always feel like a warm embrace to me. It will always, hold like this special place, because I watched it created, as many of us did. I watched this deck be created from the beginning, from her early sketches, from her studies of Isabel Gowdy, from just the collaborations she did. And so it was something I feel like I got to be a part of, even though I wasn't a part of it, obviously. I got to be just a part of seeing it be birthed like into the world, and seeing it come from her mind, and her research, and like just the meticulous like care she put into making this deck. So it's always going to be the warm embrace because of that ancestral energy with it. And I just think it's absolutely amazing, because I love her artwork so much. And side note, if anyone is really interested in this, I did start a deep dive of this, so I'm going to continue that. So that I'll continue that on my channel, as well as there's a Witch Sister Tarot Facebook group. Now, Julia recently transitioned it, because the deck is now out into the world. She recently decided to transition it to a more of a Witch Sister Tarot study group on Facebook. So while she still is on there and active, she has brought on a small team of admin people to manage the page, and to bring it forth and bring it into this new, renewed, and in its new form as a study group. So if anyone's interested, please check it out. I happen to be an admin. I have the great honor and privilege of being an admin of this group. And so we're just starting out. Julia announced it on Imbolc, which, she just thought was the most appropriate time to do that, to announce sort of this transition, this renewal, this rebirth of her group. And, and as she's now working on new things, and she shares that with us in the group, of course, she posts. So please, if you're interested in anything Julia does, just if just for that, please consider, joining the Facebook group. But it's Witch Sister Tarot on Facebook, and we're going to be doing like lots of fun posts and activities, and we're sort of coming up with a plan for how we want to engage with this deck and engage as a community around this deck. So if that's something that interests you, please join us over on Facebook, because it's a wonderful group of people. We're a wonderful group of witch sisters and brothers who absolutely adore this deck and are really looking forward to diving deep and sharing our thoughts on it. So please consider joining us. But this is the Witch Sister Tarot, and it is, like I said, the ultimate warm embrace for me, on so many levels, not just for my love of her artwork, but just the subject matter and the connection I feel to this imagery as, I said, a warm embrace from a big circle of ancestors that I just feel around me. So that's the Witch Sister Tarot. And the deck I chose to go with, the Oracle deck I chose to kind of go with this, and hear me out on this one. Stay with me on this one and hear me out. So I chose the Memento Mori. And you're probably thinking, a warm embrace. I'm not seeing the connection. So this is, of course, by Claire Goodchild of Black in the Moon. And this is just a masterpiece on its own. And just such a, oh my God, it's so deep. It has so many cards. I have the expansion. So I have the folk magic expansion. So that's the only expansion I have. I believe there's a few of them. So I have the main Oracle deck. It's a Lenormand and Oracle deck. And then I have the folk magic expansion. So like I said, you may be thinking like, how and why would you consider this a warm embrace? And I will tell you, it's because, again, that very ancestral feeling that comes with working with this deck, the connection to ancestors and ancestral knowledge and wisdom, and just that connection is one reason. The other reason is that it's filled with artifacts. Like here we have watch, so it's filled with lots of artifacts, and it reminds me sort of a cabinet of curiosities, or like walking around like a vintage store or an antique store, which happens to be one of my favorite pastimes, literally. Me and my partner, thank God he shares that with me, because otherwise I would be like literally dragging him into every antique store. But he enjoys it just as much as I do. So it reminds me of walking around like an antique store, and then what happens is we make up stories about the objects we find, or like if it's objects that we're familiar with because our families, people in our families had them, or we had them in our homes like growing up. So it kind of reminds me of that energy of like walking around an antique store and looking into cabinets of curiosities and just finding all these different curios and objects, and that is a warm memory for me, that doing that, just doing that with him. And I used to do it with my mom and I, like we did that so much together. Like my mom and I still love that, but we spent a lot of time in like vintage stores and antique stores, and she loves that too. She loves walking through. So and like this like door, like I can't even tell you how many vintage and antique stores we've gone into, and there's been doors for sale, like old doors. And actually connecting back to the museum, there's like an old, like medieval, like a door from a medieval castle in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And I always like make up like where and like who the people were that lived there. And I'm always like, how many people have touched this door? How many people how many people walked through that threshold? Like, who are they? What are their stories? This is where my mind goes. So it just is a really warm, again, it gives me that very warm feeling. And this is a masterpiece. I think this is it has such a special spot amongst Oracle decks. But it definitely is giving me like that warm feeling. Again, feeling embraced by ancestors and feeling embraced by like a line of people that have come before you, and maybe all the objects they've used in their daily life, and objects they used in their professions, and just, it's like this rich history. And it just makes me feel warm. And I feel like with the Witch Sister being such an ancestral type of deck for me and that energy, then this is magical as well. And another thing we enjoy doing is walking around old cemeteries. Like, who doesn't? Like, I feel like you're not really living until you have walked amongst the dead, if that makes sense, and just had that silent reverence for their lives and the things that they've been through and the family they left behind and just their stories and just looking at the interesting carvings on the headstones. And like, I know Claire Goodchild, has talked about, how she studied like different grave markers and just the symbols and what they mean, right? The symbols and what they mean. Her Memento Mori podcast is amazing. And it goes through the different symbols in the Memento Mori deck. It is amazing. If you have this deck, please go listen to her podcast, because she talks about where a lot of the symbols and what they stand for and the stories behind them. And she's such an amazing storyteller. Like, she's so captivating. So if I remember, I will definitely link that in the description box, the Memento Mori podcast by Claire Goodchild. Check it out. It's so good. But yeah, so this is like, again, I'm not going to keep going on and on about it, but I just find that it's really giving me those warm feelings, and being embraced by, again, like the ancestry that went before me and the people, and just in being surrounded by them and protected by them and watched over and knowing that they're there if I want to reach out, for guidance and for knowledge and to connect with them. So yeah, so I love this deck. This is the Memento Mori Oracle deck with the Folk Magic expansion. And I'm actually excited to use these two decks together. Like, I haven't really looked at them together, but I feel like they have, again, for me, a very similar energy. So I'm kind of really like looking forward to using this together and just kind of seeing what objects, come forward. Like, here we have spell. Like, it's just so good, this Memento Mori, and I'm excited to pair these two together. Stang. So this is part of the folk expansion, I believe. So here we have Elf Stroke and Sneak. Like, I'm loving this. So I think this was a good idea. I think it was a good pick for me. And I really want to dive deeper with the Memento Mori. It's such a chunky and like massive oracle. Like, it deserves a deep dive into it. So I'm excited about that. So that's my third little pairing there for Warm Embrace Cozy Capsule Collection for February, Witch Sister Tarot Memento Mori. So I would love to hear if you've seen the videos from Kelsey and Tara, and what you maybe what you would pick for your cozy capsule collection for the month of February, or maybe you'd like to wait until March and then pick some decks to use for the cozy capsule collection. We'll see what that theme is going to be. I'll try to link everything in the description box so that you can check out their videos. You can see what it's all about. Please let me know what you chose for February, even if you're not following along with the capsule collection. Just what are you using in February? What decks are giving you the warm embrace types of feelings? I'd love to hear different ideas, because I know mine are kind of out there and are very personal to me, and I hope everyone else's are just as personal. And I'd love to hear those things from you, about why you chose the decks. So please consider subscribing if you haven't. Give this video a like, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.